There are 6 different question types in IELTS listening, and on test day, it can get pretty intense because you only get one chance. In this video, I'm going to take you through everything you need to know. Okay, before we go through all the different listening question types and whether or not you can write your answers in capital letters, let's just recap the basics. So in IELTS listening, you'll get 30 minutes to complete 40 questions. There are 4 sections. Each section has 10 questions. And as I mentioned, there are 6 different question types. All right, let's take a look at each of those different sections. But just before we do, please click that subscribe button for great IELTS videos. In IELTS listening section 1, you'll hear 2 people speaking in an everyday social context. For example, maybe you'll hear 2 people talking about travel arrangements, or purchasing clothes, or booking a hotel. In section 2, you'll hear a single person, one person, speaking in an everyday social context. For example, you might hear one person talking about a new sports facility, or a park ranger talking about a camping ground, or a person talking about career development. In section 3, you'll hear 2 or 3 people having a conversation in an educational context. So for example, you might hear 2 students talking about an assignment, and perhaps you'll hear the professor as well. Or maybe they'll be talking about giving an oral presentation. In section 4, you'll hear one person speaking on an academic topic. For example, maybe he or she will talk about architecture, or biology, or technology. Don't worry, you don't need to be an expert in any of these academic topics. However, by section 4, the vocabulary is definitely getting a little more complex. Okay, I've got a few more things to talk to you about. So, some important details are you only hear the recordings once. You'll also hear a range of accents: British, American, Canadian, Australian, and New Zealand accents. The good news is it's unnatural. It's kind of fake, which means that it's clear. It's not like normal spoken English. And if you're taking the paper-based test, you'll have 10 minutes to transfer your answers. What does this mean? What I mean by that is you will write your answers directly onto the question booklet during the test, and then you'll get 10 minutes at the end to transfer your answers from the question booklet to the answer sheet. So make sure you transfer those answers carefully. Now, if you're taking the computer-delivered test, it's a lot simpler because you'll actually just complete the answers as you go. You will get 2 minutes at the end to check your answers, but there's really not much you can do because, again, you only hear that audio once. Right, we're about to get started, and what I want you to do is to download the free practice test from the description below. This practice test also has an answer sheet, and it's a fillable PDF. We're actually going to do quite a few questions in this video, and I want you to do them with me directly into this practice test. So in IELTS listening, what are they actually testing you for? Well, in IELTS listening, you need to listen for main ideas, detailed information, opinions, attitudes, the purpose of what's being said, as well as the development of ideas. In terms of scoring, if you're aiming for an IELTS 6, you'll need to get at least 23 points out of 40. 7, you'll need to get at least 30 out of 40. And if you're aiming for an IELTS 8, you'll need to get at least 35 questions right out of 40. So you can see that there really isn't much room for error here. If you get 34 instead of 35, then you won't get that IELTS 8. That's why we need to do some practice, and we're going to look at the first question type now. Get your pen ready. Question type number 1, note, form, table, flowchart completion. This one that we're looking at here is a form completion. Make sure you pay attention to the instruction. This one, for example, says write no more than 2 words and or a number. It's absolutely critical that you understand what this means fully, because if you get this wrong and you write 3 words or 2 words and a number, but not a number, I don't know, it gets confusing. Let's look at it closely. So if you need to write no more than 2 words and or a number, well, you can write 1 word like table or Fred. You can write 2 words like studio apartment or $3 where 3 is actually a word. If you're writing 1 word and a number, then you can write $3 with a numeral, $3, or July 16, or 7 million, where 7 is a numeral. If you need to write 2 words and a number, you can write 3 red flowers or 12 male geese, but you cannot write 12 male geese with 3 words. And if you just need to write a number, you can write the number 7 or 7,123 is considered a single number, but you cannot write 7,100 because that is 1 number and 3 words. See how all this works? Now, keep in mind that IELTS never tests you for contractions. So the answer will never be o'clock or don't or let's or there. You never get tested on contractions. And if you have to write a hyphenated word for some reason, which is very rare, it's counted as a single word, as 1 word, like co-worker or round trip or ill-advised. Now, before you actually start hearing the audio and you begin the test, you get a little bit of time for pre-listening, which is absolutely essential to get right. So back to form completion, in the pre-listening, what you want to do is predict what words you might hear before the audio starts playing. For example, here it says customer last name. You know that you're going to be listening for a surname. Or for the next one, number 2, you're listening for the name of a street. Number 3, a postcode. Number 4 and 5, the names of books. Number 6, where something currently is. Number 7, a date. And number 8, a number. This one's straightforward. Okay, we're about to start on the first practice question. We're gonna do it together. If you're doing this on the practice test that you've downloaded from the description below, that's great because that's like real life practice. If you're watching this on your phone, on your bed, and you're feeling a bit lazy, that's okay. You can skip it if you want. But let's go through this now. And then after, I wanna go through the answers with you because I'm gonna point out all the things that can trip you up on test day. All right, let's do it. You have 10 seconds to look through the notes and predict what you might hear. Ready? Listen carefully.
Good morning, Jungle Books. How can I help you today?
Hi, I'm calling to inquire about a couple of books that I bought a few weeks ago but haven't received yet.
No problem at all. Would you like me to track them for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Firstly, I'll need to ask for some personal details.
Sure.
What's your full name?
It's James Murray.
How do I spell your last name?
Yes, it's Murray.
E-Y?
A-Y.
Thank you. And did you have the book sent to a post box or to your home address?
My home address.
And what's your home address?
It's Unit 3, 21 Adams Street, Albion.
Is that A-D-A-M?
Yes, but with an S. Adams.
And you said that's in Albion. A-L-B-I-O-N.
That's right.
And what's the postcode?
It's 254837.
Right. And now I need to know the names of the books.
Well, the first book is for my university course. I'm studying botany.
Botany.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So the book's called Plant Science.
Got it. And the other one?
Well, this one is a gift for my younger sister, who's really into anime.
Ah, nice. Like King of Seven.
Yes, but it's not that one. It's Perfect Green.
Okay, got it. So, it looks like they're still in transit.
Ah, I see. They're still on their way.
Yeah, but It looks like you'll get them on September 13th.
Okay.
But I can give you a tracking number if you like. That way you can keep track of them and you'll know exactly when they'll arrive.
That'd be great.
So the tracking number is 739 316 590.
739 316 590. Got it. I just go to junglebooks.com and enter this?
That's right.
Okie dokie, how did you go? Hopefully you're feeling confident. This is the easiest part of the test. Let's run through all of those answers. So, number one, the answer is Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y. There was a distractor there that said E-Y, and then the speaker said, no, it's A-Y. Number two, the answer was Adams, A-D-A-M-S, and there was a distractor there because the speaker said A-D-A-M, and then the other speaker said yes, but with an S, Adams. If you wrote Adam, A-D-A-M, you would have gotten it incorrect. So we're beginning to understand what a distractor is. A distractor is a tempting answer option that's wrong, okay? And there are heaps of distractors all through IELTS listening. This is pretty much what it's about. It's about synonyms and it's about distractors. If you want to learn more about distractors, there's a video link in the description below that will help you out. Okay, number three was a postcode 254837. Hopefully you got that right. Number four, look at all of these distractors. I'm studying botany. Botany, that's not the right answer. The book's called Plant Science. And number five, look at these distractors. Anime, King of Seven, both of those are wrong. And especially King of Seven, because that's 3 words and you have a 2-word maximum word count. The answer here is Perfect Green. Okay, number 6 was a bit difficult. The answer is transit. Books currently in transit. If you don't know what that word means, then the speaker said, I see, they're still on their way, which means they're in transit. For number 7, we needed a date, and the date was September 13. So with these ones, you could write 13 as a number, 13 as a word. You could write 13th or 13th as a word with a TH. All of those would be considered correct. Finally, the tracking number was 739316590. Maybe you wrote junglebooks.com, which would have been incorrect. So you want to make sure that you get all of these note completion ones correct because this is the easiest part of the test. So we've done 8 questions so far. There are 10 questions per section. So we've got a couple of other questions coming up related to that conversation. Question type number 2, multiple choice. I think multiple choice questions are pretty difficult in listening because you're listening, which is fine, but you're also reading. And you have to kind of do this flash reading, flash listening. Make sure that you're listening more than you're reading though. Now, before the audio begins, you get a little bit of time to look at the questions. Your task is to flash read and listen. Also to eliminate incorrect answer options and to select the correct answer option. Sometimes you'll need to select more than one answer option. The instruction will indicate if this is the case. The multiple choice style questions test you for a detailed understanding of specific points or an overall understanding of the main points. Okay, ready? Let's do the multiple choice questions. Again, if you haven't downloaded that practice test, I recommend you do because it's going to give you real life simulation and it's a fillable PDF so you can do it on your computer. Or again, if you're watching this on your bed, on your phone, fine. You can skip through if you want. I'm going to look at the answers with you in just a minute. You have 10 seconds to quickly read the questions and prepare to hear the answers. Okay, listen carefully.
Is there anything else I can help you with today?
Actually, I've been looking for another book, but I can't seem to find it.
I can have a look for you.
That'd be great. It's called Botanical Varieties.
Yes, we have that. It comes in a few different formats.
Formats. Do you mean like hardcover or paperback?
Yes, as well as an ebook.
Oh, I dislike ebooks, and I'd rather have a hardcover book than a paperback. Can you tell me the price difference between the two?
Yeah, it looks like the hardcover is slightly more expensive. It's $12 more expensive.
I haven't got much money to spend at the moment, but that's probably worth it, I think. They do tend to last longer than paperbacks.
I agree. So I'll have that sent to the same address?
Oh, before you do, can you please tell me what edition that book is? My university professor said that we should buy the most up to date edition if we can. Or if we can't find it, he said the second edition would do.
This one is the latest edition.
Okay, great. Yes, please send that one to me as well then.
No problem.
All right, how did you go with those multiple choice questions? Did you notice that you have to listen and read and listen and read, and you're sort of going back and forth and back and forth? It's a bit tricky. Notice that question 9 didn't start for quite a few sentences. In IELTS listening, they always give you a little bit of time to orient yourself to the text, which is good. It's always just a little bit of background information. So question 9 says, format of book chosen, paperback, hardcover, or ebook. The answer here is hardcover. Why? Let's look at the transcript. So it says ebooks, which is a distractor. Then the speaker says, I'd rather a hardcover than a paperback, which is kind of a distractor, but you don't know yet. Then the other speaker says the hardcover is slightly more expensive. So maybe you're thinking, oh, it must be the paperback. Then the other speaker says, I haven't got much money to spend at the moment. So you're thinking, oh, it must be the paperback. But then the speaker says, but that's probably worth it, I think. Hardcovers do tend to last longer than paperbacks. Can you see why the answer here is hardcover? So what you'll notice in multiple choice is that all of the answer options will be mentioned. They will be said. You will hear the words of all of those answer options, but 2 of them will be incorrect, 1 will be correct. You need to eliminate the incorrect ones to find the correct one and not be distracted by those incorrect ones. Also, this question was a little inferential. It's an inference question. The speaker doesn't explicitly say, I want the hardcover. That would be too easy. Instead, you have to kind of work it out when the speaker says hardcovers do tend to last longer than paperbacks, or it's worth it, I think. So in the listening, you'll be hearing synonyms, paraphrases, and sometimes making inferences or drawing conclusions from what you heard. Again, it won't be as simple as somebody saying, I want the hardcover book. That's too easy. Okay, question 10 says, book edition selected first, second, or third. In the transcript, the speaker says, my university professor said that we should buy the most up-to-date edition. What's the most up-to-date edition there? First, second, or third? Must be third if we can. Or if we can't find it, he said the second edition would do. So there's a distractor. Then the other speaker says, this one is the latest edition. Then the speaker says, okay, great. Yes, please send that one to me. Here, that one is referring to the latest edition. The latest edition is referring to answer option C, third. So here we've got the use of a pronoun, that one, referring to the answer, which is also inferential. You can see how difficult or tricky listening can be, but it's not if you practice properly. Again, if we look closely, the speaker says, this one is the latest edition, and then please send that one to me. The latest edition is C, third. Cool, so we've just done multiple choice. Now, if you need help with synonyms and pronouns, etc., there's a video in the description below that you can click on and watch after this one about that exact topic. Question type number 3, short answer. The short answer questions are pretty straightforward in terms of their format, as in how you see them on the paper on test day. They make sense. However, as I mentioned, as you progress through the sections, the listening is going to get more challenging. So here's what the short answer questions look like. Remember to always read that instruction. This one says, write no more than 2 words. So this time, no numbers or no numerals. Now, as you listen, you'll be taking the word or words directly from the audio. You don't change them at all. They should fit in those gaps. Contracted words are never tested. Spelling is tested. So if you get the right word but you spell it wrong, it will be wrong. Hyphenated words, which are very rare, do count as single words. Now, before the audio begins, in the pre-listening, read the questions and especially think about what considerations, what essential needs, what aspects. So this particular one we're looking at here is asking you for 2 answer options per question. Sometimes it'll do that. Sometimes it'll ask you for a single answer. You need to remain flexible because you might see anything on test day. And as long as you've practiced, it won't be a problem. Okay, ready to do these short answer questions? You have 10 seconds to quickly read the questions and prepare to hear the answers. Here we go.
Choosing the type of work you'll do is arguably one of the most important decisions you can make. Selecting a career can take weeks, months, or even years as you consider what you want and need in a job. The first thing you'll want to do is perform a self-assessment. Nobody else can do this for you. You need to ask yourself what your key values are. Some people are driven by money, while others pursue careers that are about helping people. Everyone's different. You should also reflect on your natural abilities. For me, I'm a good public speaker, a good communicator, while for others, they're much more technical and detail-oriented. Again, everyone's different. Next, you'll need to take some time to identify your must-haves in a job. This can be something as important as a job location, because you may need to live and work close to your family. It's important to know what you need from a job. For instance, do you need to earn a consistent salary? If so, then you may want to avoid freelance work, as the income can be intermittent at best. Perhaps a job title is also critical. If so, then you should probably avoid working for yourself, unless you choose to call yourself CEO. After you've reflected on yourself and what is most important for you in terms of work, you might want to start researching your favorite companies. You'll want to find out about the employee benefits they offer, including rates of pay, the ability to work from home, or even if they will take care of your health. You also want to make sure that the company has growth opportunities. You don't want to work for a company that doesn't have a future for you. You need to advance and take on more responsibilities as you progress.
How did you go? Let's take a look at those answers and let's take a look at those distractors. So, when self-assessing, students should consider their own what? The answer to number 11 is key values. You need to ask yourself what your key values are. Driven by money, pursue careers, and helping people would all be incorrect as they just don't fit grammatically and they're just distractors. Number 12 is natural abilities. The speaker says you should also reflect upon your natural abilities. In other words, consider. And the distractors here are public speaker, good communicator, technical and detail-oriented, none of which fit properly. So you're really starting to understand now how you're listening and you're disregarding a lot of information, but then holding something that's critical that answers the question, okay? You're listening for something. Now there's something important I want to show you here. If you wrote key value, it would be incorrect, or natural ability would be incorrect. You need to make sure that you get the plural nouns right. So key values, natural abilities, they are the correct answers. And if you did put one of the distractors in, like public speaker, which is wrong, just read the question and see if it makes sense. When self-assessing, students should consider their own key values, yes, and public speaker. Well, it just doesn't make sense, does it? Nor does good communicator, but natural abilities does. So with these short answer questions, you need to make sure that the sentence is grammatical after you've completed it. Let's look at the next ones. So what essential needs does the speaker give examples of? Well, job location was given to you as the first example. The second need is consistent salary. Consistent salary is the correct answer there. And freelance work was the distractor. And the answer to question 14 was job title. And there wasn't really any distractors here. It was just job title. So what essential needs does the speaker give examples of? Consistent salary and job title. Now for this one, if you just wrote the word title and not job title, it would definitely be incorrect because it just doesn't make sense. Okay, questions 15 and 16. What are two aspects of an attractive company that students should look for? Before we look at the answers to 15 and 16, I want to talk to you about something really important about vocabulary. Take a look at the transcript. So this is the transcript of what you've just listened to after you've reflected on yourself and what is most important, etc. Now, the words in yellow are content words. These are words that have meaning, like reflect, important, terms, work, want, start, researching, favorite, companies, etc. Now take a look at these words. These are not meaningful words. These are called function words or grammar words like after, you've, on, yourself, and, what, is, most, for, you, in, of. These words don't have meaning and you'll never be tested on these words. I don't want to say never actually because you never know, but it's very uncommon that you're going to be tested on those grammatical words. You're not going to be listening for those function or grammar words. You're going to be listening for those content or those meaningful words, the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, and the adverbs. They're the critical ones. So what's an aspect of an attractive company that students should look for? Well, employee benefits is the answer for number 15. Rates of pay would be incorrect. Ability to work from home doesn't work. Take care of your health also doesn't work. And for number 16, the answer is growth opportunities. Both words would be needed here. Have a future, need to advance, more responsibilities, and progress are the distractors, and they are all incorrect. So how are you going so far? If you're enjoying this video, make sure you click that like button. Feel free to leave a comment, but let's push on. Stay with me. I want to do all of the questions with you. Question type number 4, matching. The matching question on the paper-based test, to be perfectly honest with you, is very confusing. Let's take a look at it. So this is what it looks like on the paper-based test. It says, which restaurant matches each description? The names of the restaurants are in the little box there. A, Sixpenny, B, Attica, C, Lumi, D, Fred's Place, and E, Bentley. And the description are next to the numbers. Great seaside views, fusion meals, locally grown food, and seasonal dishes. What you need to do is put a letter next to the number. So for example, number 17, great seaside views might be A, Sixpenny, or B, Attica, or C, Lumi. You just write the letter. Just be mindful that you may be able to use any letter more than once. If so, this is going to be mentioned in the instructions. Let's look at how it looks on the computer delivered test now because it's quite different. So on the computer delivered test, the question's going to look like this. So this is a different question type and you can see A, B, and C, a weekend intensive, a blended course, or a dropper subject. What you need to do is match one of those letters to one of those statements. So number 1, the lecturer does not think this is a good idea. What? A weekend intensive, a blended course, or drop a subject? You would then need to click in the box A, B, or C, then move on to number 2. Here are some key points with these matching questions. You're going to be listening for details. For example, descriptions of a restaurant. As I mentioned, you write the letter A, B, C, D, or E next to the number. For example, if you think Attica has great seaside views, that's B, then you write B next to number 17. Don't write the word Attica. Okay, question time. Let's do it. Ready? You have 10 seconds to wrap your head around what all of this means before the audio begins. Here we go.
Hi Max, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, I'm ringing because I need some advice. It's my wedding anniversary next week, and I want to take my wife to a nice restaurant, and I know that you know all the best places in town.
Okay, right, great idea. Well, I have 5 favourite restaurants that you might like. They'd be perfect for an anniversary. They're nice and romantic. Did you want something near the city centre or somewhere out near the beach?
I'm not sure. What do you suggest?
Well, there are 2 restaurants right in the city centre. There's Fred's Place and Lumi. But if you don't mind catching the train, you can check out Bentley. It's got sweeping views of the harbour. Then there's Sixpenny and Attica, which are just outside of the city centre in Darlinghurst.
I don't really want to take public transport, although that does sound nice. What about the 2 in Darlinghurst? Can you tell me a bit more about them?
They're both great restaurants. If you want something a little different, you could try Sixpenny. It was a Greek restaurant, but then the management changed hands and the new owners are Korean, so now it's a really interesting mix of Mediterranean and East Asian food. Or there's Attica, just up the street from Sixpenny, which is more traditional Greek food. It's also really good. I must say that Attica is a little expensive though, and it can get a little bit cramped in the front dining area.
What about the 2 restaurants you mentioned in the city? You don't happen to know if they use organic ingredients? You know my wife is big on health.
If that's the case, then you might want to try Fred's Place or Lumi. They're both near the central train station. I know Fred's Place actually grows its own vegetables. In fact, I think they have their own farm just outside the city where everything is produced. The only problem with Fred's Place is that it gets really crowded, so make sure you book a few days in advance. Then there's Lumi. It's just across the road from Fred's Place. It's famous because it only uses vegetables that grow in that particular time of the year. Right now, they're doing all things winter. I'm pretty sure all Lumi's produce is organic as well, but I'm not sure where they get it from. I don't think it's from the local area. I think they must source some ingredients from other parts of the country.
Okay, how did you go? Let's look at the answers and those distractors. Okay, so which restaurant has great seaside views? Well, Fred's Place and Lumi was mentioned. Sixpenny and Attica was also mentioned as well. However, Bentley, it's got sweeping views of the harbour. Notice how it doesn't use the exact same words. It's using synonyms or a paraphrase. Okay, so which restaurant has fusion meals? Well, then the conversation moves to Sixpenny, and they talk about Sixpenny. They say it's a really interesting mix of Mediterranean and East Asian food. So that is a fusion meal. Next, which restaurant talks about locally grown food? Well, next you would have heard about Attica, but in fact, there was nothing mentioned about Attica. It didn't have great seaside views. It didn't have fusion meals, it didn't have locally grown food, and it didn't have seasonal dishes. It was put in there as a distractor. You'll notice that there are 6 restaurants, but only 5 descriptions. So one of the restaurants will not be used, and that one is Attica. There will be no B here. So where's the locally grown food? Was it Fred's Place or Lumi? Well, Fred's Place actually grows its own vegetables. In fact, I think they have their own farm just outside the city where everything is produced. Notice how we're moving through the descriptions sequentially, okay? We're not moving through the list of restaurants sequentially because they could go anywhere, but we are moving through the descriptions sequentially. So, which restaurant has seasonal dishes? Well, Lumi, which is just across the road from Fred's Place, don't be distracted, Lumi has seasonal dishes. And although it says Lumi has organic food, it does say that it doesn't come from the local area. They must import ingredients from other parts of the country. So that means it can't be D. So the answer for 20 is C. So as you can see, the matching questions are pretty confusing. Remember, you can always practice on E2. Let's look at the next question type. Question type number 5, sentence completion. So sentence completion is similar to short answer, except you'll be filling a gap in a sentence and it needs to be grammatically correct, as well as meaning, of course. Here's what it looks like here, and it tests you on understanding key information. Make sure you read the instructions. For this particular question, it says no more than 2 words for each answer. The word or words that you use must be taken directly from the audio and they do not change. You do not need to transform the word at all. It should just fit. Contracted words will not be tested. Misspellings will be penalized. Hyphenated words, if you ever need one, will be counted as a single word. All right, let's do this one together and we'll go through the answers and again, the distractors after this. You have 10 seconds to read through these questions and get a feel for what the answer might be. Then the audio will begin.
Hello, Stephen. I guess we better start on our assignment. You know we only have 2 weeks left to research and write an essay.
Yes, well, at least we don't have an end of semester exam. That's a relief.
Yes, very true.
Okay, so what do we have to do again? Sorry, please remind me.
Well, we have to choose 1 of 3 topics to research and write about.
Oh, that's right. We have to choose between corruption, social movements, and what was it? Global development?
No, corruption, social movements, and global interdependence.
That's right, interdependence. I keep getting that mixed up with development. Well, which one would you like to choose?
I really think we should focus on corruption. I think it's interesting. It's a problem for every country, but some countries are much worse off than others.
Really? I find it kind of depressing. I'd much rather do something else. How about social movements? That seems fascinating. I'm a big fan of history, so we could read about how societies transform from one generation to the next.
I find that social change is interesting too. But I did something similar last semester in my political science class, and I'd rather not repeat it. How about the global interdependence subject? It's quite optimistic to think that all countries need each other in some way.
Okay, that sounds interesting. And you're right, it might make us feel a bit better about international relations. We really are more connected than ever these days through trade and the internet. And we'll be able to read Macquarie. I think he's the most important thinker on the topic.
Oh, great. How do I spell his name?
Macquarie.
Great. Well, I think I'll start by going to the library and asking for any relevant books, and you can start to read some relevant articles online. How does that sound?
That sounds like a good idea. I think we should definitely avoid watching the news. It's too time-consuming and we don't have enough time.
Great. So we'll stick to the library and the internet.
All right, how did you go there? It's getting pretty challenging, isn't it? You'll be okay. Let's go through the answers together. All right, so the answer to number 21 was essay. Beth said, you know we only have 2 weeks left to research and write distractors and essay. 1 word was the correct answer there. And then Stephen says, yes, well, at least we don't have an end of semester exam. If you wrote exam, that would be incorrect. That's a distractor. The answer to question number 22 was global interdependence, not global independence, interdependence. Have a look at this. Stephen said, we have to choose between corruption, social movements, and what was it? Global development? Beth said, no, corruption, social movements, and global interdependence. Stephen says, that's right, interdependence. I keep getting that mixed up with development. So if you wrote global development, that would also be wrong. The answer for number 23 is also global interdependence. Now, I've never seen an IELTS listening paper that has the same answer twice, but it might happen. And you should always just concentrate on whatever's said and go with whatever's said. Don't go with instinct or what looks right or what looks wrong. Go with what you hear. So the students choose global interdependence as their topic. Beth says, I really think we should focus on corruption. Stephen says, how about social movements? Beth says, how about the global interdependence subject? Stephen says, okay, that sounds interesting. The answer to number 24, the author the students plan to read is Macquarie. How do you spell Macquarie? M-A-C-Q-U-A-R-I-E. If you spelled it wrong, it would be considered incorrect. The students will use information from the library and what's the answer for number 25? Internet. There was a good distractor there. Beth said, read some relevant articles online. Online would be incorrect because you can't say the online. Stephen says, avoid watching the news. Beth says, the internet. So that question type is pretty straightforward, but we saw some little distractors. For example, you can't write the online. It needed to be the internet, okay? Sometimes you need to wait a little bit to find that right content word, the right answer. Okay, we're up to the last question type. Let's do it. Question type number 6, plan, map, diagram, labeling. So you might see a plan that looks like this. This one is from the computer delivered test, in which case you will write directly into the gaps on the screen. You might see a map that looks like this. And they'll look pretty similar on the paper-based test. Let's now look at a diagram completion task that you'll see later on in the test as it gets more challenging. So the one we're going to do today looks like this. So you're going to listen to a description using a visual representation. Notice how it's numbered from left to right, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. The description will follow this sequence, so you'll be moving from left to right. Make sure you always pay attention to the order of the numbers. You'll be listening for spatial relationships, above, next, or directions like straight or turn left. Usually you'll select the answers from a list. For example, you'll see a list of A, B, C, D, E, and F, and you'll be putting a letter next to the number. Sometimes you need to listen and write a word or words and or a number directly into the gap. And that's what we're going to do in this one. Of course, you need to read the instructions if this is the case. In this one, we're going to write no more than 2 words for each answer. Trust me, after you've practiced a lot, all of this will feel like second nature. It'll be really much easier. Practice really is helpful for this part of the test. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, you've got 10 seconds to analyze this diagram to work out what's going on.
The ocean is never still. Whether we observe it from the shore or a boat, we expect to see waves all the way to the horizon. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the characteristics of waves. Waves that you see on the ocean's surface are not actually formed by local winds, but instead are formed by winds from distant storms. These waves that arrive from distant sources are known as swell. Far out at sea, long before the swell reaches the shore, there is an upper layer of air that sinks downwards that actually pushes the water upwards. Inside the swell, there is a movement of energy. A circular orbit begins to form within the wave, moving energy around and around as it travels towards the shore. On top of this movement of energy is what's called the swell crest. It's the highest point of the swell out at sea. And in between two of these is the lowest point, which is called a trough. If you're on a boat at sea, the boat will rise and fall with the movement of the swell. Now, as the swell nears the shore, it begins to form a wave. Here, it actually begins to make contact with the seafloor, and the energy that I mentioned before begins to change its shape. It is no longer circular, but elliptical, and this is the result of friction as the wave drags along the sandy bottom. As it hits the bank of sand near the seashore, the wave gains in height and breaks. That's why the crescendo of a wave is often called a breaker. The wave collapsing on the shore is called a swash, and the return of the water back into the ocean as a result of the slope of the beach is called backwash, not to be confused with a rip, as we will discuss in our next lecture. So, this is the process of swell turning into waves.
Okay, that was pretty tricky. The vocabulary is getting pretty technical now. Let's have a look at the answers. Okay, so number 26. Inside the swell, there is a movement of energy, but we can only write two words, so it can't be that phrase there. Next sentence says, a circular orbit begins to form within the wave. Moving energy would also be incorrect. The answer there is circular orbit. Number 27, swell something. Is it swell energy, swell crest, swell highest, swell point of the swell, or swell sea? The answer is swell crest, C-R-E-S-T. Number 28, is it swell point? Well, no, because it says the lowest swell point is called a swell trough. This spelling is really tough. T-R-O-U-G-H, swell trough. Okay, so I put that one in there just to really push your limits of spelling, just to remind you that you do need to spell the word correctly if you're going to get that point. Sorry. So, number 29, wave becomes elliptical due to what? The sea floor? Well, no, it can't be that. The energy? It's not quite right. Its shape? No, that's not right either. Circular doesn't work grammatically. Friction is a nice word, but elliptical, and this is the result of friction. Notice how due to and the result of are synonymous phrases there. The answer there is friction. Drags and sandy bottom are incorrect. Okay, number 30. Don't miss little questions like this that you might not see. So we've got swash. Number 30, is it slope? No, it's backwash. It's the result of the slope of the beach and it's called backwash. If you wrote one word or two words, it would be considered correct. And it's not a rip. That is a distractor. Okay, we've done it. We've done 30 questions, which is an amazing effort. And if you've stuck with me throughout this whole thing, thank you. It's going to help you a lot as well. Let's have a look at the answer sheet now, because remember, at the end of the paper-based test, you have to transfer your answers across to the answer sheet. This is what it should look like. Now, bear in mind that we only did 30 questions, not 40, and there will be 40 in the actual IELTS test. So you can pause the video here and compare your answers with these answers. If, for example, for number 7, I've got several different answers, they would all be considered correct. You just need one of them. All right, how did you go? Please let me know your score into the comments below. I'd love to know what you got. And while you're there, click that subscribe button, hit like, and feel free to share this video with any of your friends who are taking IELTS as well. At the start of this video, I told you that I would tell you whether or not you can use capital letters on the answer sheet. The answer to that question is yes, you can. You would have noticed on my answer sheet, it's all written in capital letters. I recommend that you actually do that. Cool, that's all. You now have a full overview of IELTS listening. My name is Jay. I'll see you soon.